In the uncertain world today, we have been plagued by scammers, and modern technology, despite its convenience, can be a bane with its existence. I had my taste of being swindled when I was at my most vulnerable, and now I am being paranoid by any unknown phone number, any unsolicited email, or even someone looking at me the wrong way in public places. From the writing team of Gillian Jacob and Chris Roach, who delivered Truth or Dare in 2018, and 2020's Fantasy Island, both directed by Jeff Wadlow, and from director Christopher Landon, who have written several Paranormal Activity sequels, most recently Hard Eyes, we have the movie Drop, an account of how a normal situation can turn on its head and send you through a series of hellscapes, and there was nothing you could do about it. The past works of the writers and the director certainly highlighted the fact that they will not be shy away from putting their characters in the most horrible of situations. Our lead character Violet, a therapist by trade, had a past marriage to forget, an abusive husband who pointed a loaded gun at their infant son, daring to slay his own flesh and blood on a whim. Recovering from this trauma, Violet was slowly getting back to the dating game through mobile app, and with the encouragement of her sister, took the major step to meet her date Henry for dinner, leaving a son who she had grown to be overprotective of under the care of the sister. The lavish restaurant and the dreamy date made it gratifying for Violet to make the decision until some strange messages, starting with quirky memes, had begun popping up. It did not take long for Violet to realize that she had been targeted by a heinous organization who had hacked into her phone and wanted to manipulate her to do something unthinkable, controlling her like a chess pawn, which she could not refuse when the life of her son is hanging in the balance. The fictitious DigiDrop, in which Violet's phone had been infiltrated with, was a terribly scary concept, especially with Apple's AirDrop, which of course was not as flagrant to drop messages to total strangers. Still, this was a concept we living in modern age would believed in. Communicating through messages on the phone, and the unraveling was done in the vicinity of the restaurant. The escalation of the threat and how much it affected our protagonist Violet was crucial to wrap the audience in the flow of the plot, and I must say, Langdon and his crew had done an exemplary job telling the story. The amount of tension was well modulated, and I was immersed in the predicament Violet was caught in. There was this niggling issue with filmmakers' presentation of messages on screen. It was an important storytelling tool in our time and age, but most of the time it came off a bit cheesy, but somehow the DigiDrop messages had been dropped in such high frequency that shook Violet down to her core, with the threats that were made and the unruly commands she had to adhere to certainly held a lot of weight in the grand scheme of things. Violet's suspicions with every single person she met in the restaurant was understandable, and like a real Agatha Christie mystery, it felt like you can trust no one. The action she took to quell her suspicions felt realistic and allowed audience to be involved in the journey. The reactions from her date, Henry, played by Brandon Skelner, was also authentic. Seeing your date kept making excuses to leave the table before finding her talking to other men around the restaurant, the first impression of her you will have would likely not be that she has been threatened by some online terrorists. What made the storyline even more intriguing was how Violet had resisted some of the commands she had to follow, which of course proved to be futile when the son was being used as collateral. It was a game of mental chess between Violet and her hacker that was an entertaining tit for tat. Megan Fahey played the tenacious Violet, who had a stunning performance, displaying a myriad of emotions from being apprehensive from the onset, to be distraught by the threats from nowhere, to having to put up a straight face when being commanded to do things that normal people would not have the gumption to proceed with. Fahey is an actress who I would see in the second season of The White Lotus, the HBO series about rich people with rich people's problem, while indulging themselves in a high-end luxurious resort, which tend to end up in some horrible fashion. She played the championed wife of Theo James' investor husband, who she suspected to be cheating on her while she had to keep her cool throughout, similar to what Violet had been doing in this movie. There was one scene at the end of the series to allow Fahey to showcase her acting ability, and seeing her flexing her acting prowess here as Violet, I certainly want to see more of Megan Fahey on the big screen, be it horror movie or otherwise. The ending of the movie brought me back to the restaurant scene at the start of Final Destination Bloodlines, except this restaurant was a less dangerous contraption. Nevertheless, it could still pose as a perilous terrain, which you can wield it to your own advantage. The score from Bear McCreary, who of course did the signature theme for The Walking Dead TV series, helped with stirring the emotions of the audience, and there was one particular scene of Violet confronting her home intruder. It was an interesting cinematographic experiment with a mobile camera. Whether you want to classify Drop as a thriller or a psychological horror, you cannot overlook the fact that there was an underlying horrifying facet of modern technology that could easily help us users as hostage when it was manipulated by evil people who have no regards in terms of morality. With the caliber of director Christopher Landon and his writers in the art of making horror movies and being produced by Blumhouse Productions and Platinum Dune, it might be seamless for horror fans to place a movie like Drop as a horror subgenre. I had ample fun and intrigue if you have not gathered from the review so far. This is a 7.5 out of 10. Stay tuned for another cautionary tale of the horror of technology from Blumhouse in the coming weeks. So do subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell if you are interested. Megan Fahey have the credentials to be a scream queen, though it felt like this was not the direction the actor is heading towards. Unlike Samara Weaving, whose latest two horror offerings, Azrael and Borderline, had been discussed in my last review. One glaring thing the awful people that held Violet hostage through the Digidrop gimmick might have overlooked was that if she had not fully charged her mobile phone prior to attending the date, the whole plan might not work.